I just don't understand why the Baltimore Ravens put themselves into positions to where they have the game under control and then they make costly mistakes and they lose. We saw it against the Bills in last year's playoffs, and now we just saw it again against them in week one in the regular season. The Ravens had all the momentum. They had a chance to go up 16 points and they missed the extra point. They get a stop, a 2 point conversion stop, which of course had them up 2 points, and all they need to do is just pick up a couple of first downs. Lamar Jackson instantly does with his legs. And then they have three straight plays in front of the sticks. They had a chance to go for it. I think it was a 4th and 4, 4th and 5, something like that. I was calling for them to do so because if you're going to lose the game, let it be because of Lamar Jackson. Don't let Josh Allen touch the ball last, needing only a field goal. When the Bills had all the momentum because Henry had a fumble and then they scored. And they scored right before that as well. It's typical Ravens fashion. Nobody's blown more double-digit leads than John Harbaugh in the last 2 decades plus. It's just inexcusable, especially when you have the best player, in my opinion, in football, in Lamar Jackson, who threw for 209 yards on just 14 completions. That's an 11 average, 2 touchdowns, 144.4 rating, 94 QBR. Josh Allen threw for 394 yards and 2 touchdowns, and his QBR was 78.7. Like, think about that for a second. Lamar also had 70 yards with his legs and a touchdown. That play that he had, where he ran all the way back between a couple of Bills defenders, he got past Joey Bosa, another interior lineman, and then he was able to run up the field for that gain. I mean, that's one of the best plays you will ever see by a quarterback in the NFL. Lamar might be the only QB outside of Michael Vick who's able to do that in the history of football. And it was for nothing. And then Derrick Henry, all I can think about is him fumbling the football, which understandably so. It contributed to the Ravens losing this game. But at the end of the day, Henry had 169 yards rushing on 18 carries. That's 9.4 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns. He also had 13 yards receiving. DeAndre Hopkins had a 1 yard catch, one-handed catch, 29 yards. Zay Flowers goes for 143 yards, 1 touchdown. This was arguably the best game of Zay's Ravens career. He was all over the place. He was a 20.4 average. Every time he caught it, he was up the field for a big gain. Now, Mark Andrews had a quiet game, 1 for 5. They like to get him going, especially after what happened against the Bills in the playoffs. I just can't stop thinking about how Baltimore lost this game because when I was watching it live, and I just rewatched it like an hour ago on Tuesday, that's why I didn't make a video because I needed a couple of days just to like process this. I remember watching it live and thinking there's no way the Ravens are going to blow this game. They had all the momentum. Derrick Henry was in the first half. I don't know how many yards Henry had in the first half, probably like 132 from scrimmage or something like that. Literally, the Bills had no answer. They were trying to send two safeties at him in the box, but that didn't matter. As soon as he got past that first level, he was as good as gone. Lamar Jackson was flawless. Now, there was a couple of plays that didn't go the Ravens' way. We saw, for example, Justice Hill got a handoff and Boza got a hand on it, and that knocked him back 15 yards. The Ravens still scored on that possession, though. I mean, you're on the road, and you put up 40 points, and it's not good enough to win. It's inexcusable. The Bills had 394 yards from Josh Allen through the air. They had another 30 with his legs and 2 touchdowns. There's also a lot of receivers getting open down the field because Allen was able to buy time with his legs. And that's just Josh Allen being a great quarterback. But Keon Coleman, a ball hit off of a Bill tight end, and then he was able to dive on top of it, which saved the game. That was a 4th and 2. Josh Allen literally threw a prayer. A lot of luck goes into it as well. Yeah, but Derrick Henry fumbling a football, that's not luck. That's just making a stupid mistake. But obviously the Keon Coleman one and the play right before the half where Josh Allen threw an absolute ball on a rope to Dalton Kincaid. There was a second left, and then they got points off of that. Missing an extra point. I haven't heard anyone talk about that. If the Ravens had made that extra point, then the Bills would have gone to overtime. But I think, honestly, the biggest loser of this game isn't even anything I just said. I think it's John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh continues and continues and continues to be the head coach of a team that blows these late games. And I get he's not on the field, but you got to clean this up. Like, when is enough enough? And I'm not saying to get rid of him by any means because he's a fantastic coach. Like, I like Harbaugh. But there's been a common theme for the Ravens is in the biggest moments, in the biggest games. I mean, week one, but you get what I mean, is against the Bills on the road, a chance to send a message. The Ravens got to be able to beat these teams, man. We all know what's going to happen this Sunday. They're going to dominate the Browns, and but nobody really cares. I thought Lamar should have won MVP last season. I know he should have won MVP. I think Lamar honestly might have had the best season in NFL history. I'm not even kidding. Especially for a quarterback. I mean, he had an Aaron Rodgers type of passing season, and then we know what he does with his legs. Lamar is always a threat to rush for 1,000 yards. At this point, Lamar's so good at throwing, he doesn't even need to do that anymore like he did early on in his career. As an ad comes on. But just looking at the way the offense played, you pretty much can't play any better. I mean, you get 40 points on the road in a tough environment in Orchard Park, of course, in Buffalo, and it's not enough. Lamar just, he continues to put his team into a situation, and he did have a huge fumble in the playoffs. Like, don't get me wrong here. Lamar usually does have like a big mistake, but he didn't have that in this game. This was literally a game where you look at it and blame everyone but Lamar Jackson. But it's just so frustrating because I want to see him get a Super Bowl. I remember when he was drafted, of course, the Ravens traded up. They had the 32nd pick. And, dude, ads are pissing me off. I'm already pissed off talking about this game, and then an ad comes up every 2 seconds. This game was frustrating just because it's happened so many times, but it's also not being able to trust the Ravens in games like this. And, to this point, how can you really do that? And by the way, now that I'm looking at the numbers, Lamar had the best QBR in all of week one. I don't know why I needed the numbers. I knew that. Josh Allen was 9th in QBR. Lamar was 1st. This is to ESPN. Kind of a flawed metric. Josh Allen, 9th in QBR. I think Daniel Jones was like 4th or something like that. But yeah, I remember the last Ravens video I made was after the preseason, which was like a month ago to this point. And I said that the problem with Baltimore is that they just shoot themselves in the foot. They beat themselves. They typically always outplay their opponent in big game or not. But then you have like Zay Flowers against the Chiefs trying to dive for the end zone, or like Lamar making a mistake, like throwing into triple coverage or losing a ball on a strip sack, or Mark Andrews dropping a easy, wide open 2-point conversion. That's simply what it comes down to. And until I see the Ravens play a clean game, a carefree game, and just absolutely dominate one of these top teams, like the Chiefs, or dominate the Bills or the Eagles or something like that, I'm not going to believe them. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to keep making Ravens videos. Like, I want Lamar to get a Super Bowl. I'm a Colts fan, but if the Colts don't win the Super Bowl, I want it to be the Ravens. And, obviously the Colts used to play in Baltimore, and I like the Orioles as well. So, I got a lot of love for that city. But when is enough, man? I mean, it's just getting kind of ridiculous at this point. It's like, how can you even believe in Baltimore? But yeah, in terms of what's to come for the Ravens, like I said, they're going to be playing against the Cleveland Browns on Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And then they're going to have an extra day playing at home against the Lions. Now, the Lions looked awful in week one against the Packers, but that's still a game that you got to get. And then Sunday, so now a short week, 6 days, at Kansas City against the Chiefs. And then against the Houston Texans, against the Rams. Bye week. And then a couple of very, very subpar teams in Chicago, Miami. But then right back against Minnesota. At Cleveland's going to be a tough game just because it's in the division. Jets look good against the Steelers. Bengals. So, wow. I mean, that is 4 divisional games in 5 weeks. And then the Patriots. To that point, who knows who the Patriots will be? They could be bad, or they could be competing for a wildcard spot at Green Bay, at Pittsburgh. This is a tough schedule. Very, very tough schedule. I mean, it doesn't get any more difficult than Detroit, Kansas City, Houston, and Rams. Rams are a legit Super Bowl contender. Texans probably are winning the AFC South. Chiefs are obviously a contender. And then the Lions, pretty much unanimously, everyone has them making at least a wild card. So the Ravens have got to bring it. They got to bring it, man. And they got a chance. I mean, they better blow the brakes off of the Browns, but they could still respond back. They could still beat the Lions and beat the Chiefs, and we'll kind of forget about the first game. I mean, I'm not saying everyone's just going to be like, oh, it never happened, but I'll sure as hell feel a lot better than that as a Ravens fan if they are able to get those games. But you could always look back on it at the end of the season, and if the Bills win the conference and have that home field game, because that was a large reason why the Ravens did lose to the Bills, is just the weather and the ground. I mean, I know they play in Baltimore, but still, nothing, it doesn't compare to Orchard Park in Buffalo. The crowd noise as well. If the Ravens are at home, they can basically do whatever they want offensively. I mean, they were on the road and they dropped 40. Imagine if they're at home. So, yeah, I mean, Baltimore just needs to stop doing this, man. I mean, I just want them to win. I root for them. But I just, man, they kind of ruined my Sunday night, if I'm being honest with you. But yeah, guys, I'm out. Peace.